And thank you for attending our weekly media updates. As I've been saying routinely now, it's not business as usual at Town Hall, but it's certainly all business, and we continue to be very busy as we work with our residents to find the best way forward during this pandemic. And I'm joined again today by Inspector Mary Shannon and Fire Chief Ross Parr. It's been a busy week. We had a county meeting. It was our first county meeting since the county declared the state of emergency. It was done by video conference, so it was interesting to have 32 plus staff participating by video link. It was a very full meeting, and of interest, I'm sure, for our residents is that the county has introduced a mirror program for us that will defer property taxes for 90 days and waive all penalty and interest. And again, that's optional. So our residents, based on, since we've done this, initially the province joined on for the education portion, and now the county has joined on for its portion. So for 90 days, our residents have the option to defer their taxes for all three levels of government, and all interest and penalties will be waived. And so the due date for the payment will be 90 days after the initial due date. We had our first meeting of the Economic Support and Recovery Task Force. It was our introductory meeting, but I was very pleased to see the level of engagement, the level of expertise from the various members. We have 9 local business leaders involved from all sectors. We looked to try and find expertise and experience from every sector of our economy to make sure that we cover as much of that, get this broad base for our discussions. And we certainly have a very active agenda moving forward, and we're looking forward to getting down to work. The meetings are every 2 weeks at least, and they may be more frequent, and there are subgroups that are meeting more frequently. So we are really trying to hit the ground running. And we continue to see the federal and provincial governments with their programs, their relief programs. They're introducing new programs. They're changing the qualifications for some of the programs. We've seen recent changes to the CERBA relief and also to the CEBA business loans. And we're working very hard to make sure that the government looks at the payroll requirements, because that, given our economy is based of smaller businesses, a large part of our economy is small and solo entrepreneurs. We want to work with the government to make sure that those people get included as well, because right now that is a large gap in that program, in our opinion, and we want to see the federal government look at that so that we make sure that we get broad-based coverage for all of our local businesses and residents. So those discussions are ongoing. On the health care front, we know that based on the Simcoe-Muskoka District Health Unit statistics from yesterday, that in our region, Simcoe-Muskoka, there are 174 confirmed cases, and we've had 12 deaths. Provincially, that number is closer to 9,000 with 423 deaths. So this disease continues to infect us, and that's going to be the natural course, and we're expecting that. I think we've done an excellent job in our region of suppressing the surge so far, and we need to continue those efforts. And so we continue to reinforce the message: stay at home, stay healthy, and stay safe. It's a simple message. And but as we get into week 4 or 5 of this now, we understand the stress it has on everyone, and we are working with you. And we have our COVID portal at the town website, and it has Rally Point, which gives you some exercises, some activities to do at home. The library has active story readings for young families, and there are a number of portals that you'll find for information. And we continue to work with you, and our council is working very hard to make sure that we are doing everything we can to assist our residents during this crisis. And finally, I would like to pull up our shout out poster. This is a thank you poster that's on the town COVID-19 website. It thanks all frontline heroes, from our first responders to our healthcare workers, our caregivers, our store workers, our retail people that are essential services, for all that they're doing to keep us safe and healthy. So if you want one of these, and I'm encouraging everyone to post these on your doors or in your windows. I have 2 here at Town Hall and 1 at my house. And you can go onto the COVID-19 website on the town portal, and on the bottom, if you scroll down about 2/3 of the page, you'll find the link to this. So I encourage everyone to put this up to show your support and appreciation for all that our hardworking, essential residents and employees are doing at this time. So that's it for me, and I'll now pass it over to Inspector Shannon.
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate the poster, and I know that our members do as well. So this past week, we saw 28 calls for service that were directly COVID related. Again, our calls for service remain status quo. We are not seeing a decline from previous years. We are seeing an increase in calls for our mental health response unit, and we anticipate those calls of those nature to continually increase as this event prolongs. We made it through the 4-day Easter long weekend. We were fortunate enough to have 2 ATV patrols out on the Saturday and Sunday. We had members from our Aurelia Save unit that we were able to secure. So we in fact had 2 separate units out in town of Blue Mountain and 2 here in Collingwood over the weekend, and those patrols will continue. We have them scheduled for the next month. And we had a relatively quiet long weekend. I think a lot of that was the result of inclement weather. So that's the report from a policing standpoint.
Thank you very much, Mary. Chief Parr.
Thank you, Mayor Saunderson. Yeah, so to repeat your messages about stay home, practice physical distancing, and also personal hygiene. The big thing that we found this week is we're having a lot of calls to do with cooking incidents. So it's saying that the Fire Marshal of Ontario's put a program out, and we want everybody to do it is check your CO and smoke alarms in your house. And if you want to make it on social media, you can hashtag make noise at home. It's important that these devices are used. We're cooking a lot more at home. We're in the house so much trying to practice stay at home and physical distancing that we need to look after the fire safety side of it in our home. So again, hashtag make noise at home. Take a picture of yourself checking your CO or smoke alarm. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Chief. And with that, we'll open it up to the media for any questions.
Hi, it's Erica from Collingwood Today. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Hi, Erica. How are you?
Hi, good, thanks. My question is for Inspector Shannon. You mentioned the ATV patrols. Can you tell me where they were patrolling? Like, was it trails or roads, and what exactly they're looking for?
Yeah, so Erica, they were patrolling our trail systems and out in the parks. Actually out into the Pretty River Park as well. Essentially, they were looking for anyone violating the social distancing. And in the parks where the provincial parks are all shut down, they were issuing warnings for people that are trespassing. So they had a very busy weekend. A lot of warnings were issued for individuals that were out on ATVs in some of the park areas.
Have you issued any charges, or is it still just warnings?
We've not issued any charges with regards to the Emergency Act. We continue to lay provincial offense notices for driving infractions, impaired drivers. We continue to do that nature of enforcement, but we have not laid any charges with regards to the Emergency Management and Civil Protections Act.
Inspector Shannon, it's Ian Adams from The Connection.
Hi, Ian.
I know you talked a bit about this last week about aggressive driving, and have your members seen any decrease at all, or is it still very much a problem over the past week?
You know, we've been receiving a lot of comments about the visibility of our officers, so I certainly think that our high presence is having an impact. But I do know that the members are continuing to do their enforcement, and I know that there was at least one charge this week, not for stunt, but it was an excessive speed charge that the officer laid.
And just to follow up on Erica's line of questioning about charges, and I just wonder, at what point do you start to charge people? Because we've been in this I've been working at home for 5 weeks now. When do we reach the point where we start to charge people for, violating or what have you, these provincial emergency orders?
Yeah, so we've been working quite comprehensively with both municipalities and their bylaw enforcement teams. And we're really trying to maximize securing all of the public areas. So one of the things that we really worked on this past week, where we were still seeing people accessing school yard, play equipment, playgrounds, and a lot of that was due to kind of a lack of improper signage. So we've been working with the school board bylaw this past week to try and secure those facilities, ensure that the proper notice is there. And I think we're likely at the stage where we're probably going to see some enforcement, because you're right, we're now 4 weeks through. There's absolutely no reason any longer that people can say they're not aware of what the requirements are, or where they can access and what kind of activities can be condoned.
And to follow up with that, and this is for the mayor, because you've made this message pretty clear the last 3 weeks now about folks, I hate to say out of town, but people coming up here from other places to visit. And, I was walking around on the weekend, I saw plates from Quebec, for instance. Why do you think that message about people staying home is not getting through?
I imagine there's probably a number of reasons, but I don't think they're good ones. This has been an issue that's been going on for far too long, and we've heard the Premier and the Prime Minister and even the Queen talk about the importance of staying at home. This council on March 25 passed a resolution to send a letter to the Premier asking that they look at imposing restrictions. And we in Collingwood, the message I've been putting out is that whether you're a part-time or full-time resident, pick a residence and stay there. So for our Collingwood residents, we want you to stay at home and not leave Collingwood. And for the people outside town, it's the same thing. We want you to respect that messaging because it's a matter of public safety and public health. And we know now that people are dying, and the way to flatten the curve is to respect that. And I don't think it's too much to ask. I think we'll continue to work and to lobby the province to put in travel restrictions. We've seen travel restrictions in other provinces, and I understand that. And this past long weekend, the Easter weekend, there were areas up in Walkerton and north of us where the police were sending people away who did not have local postal codes on their driver's licenses. So we're seeing these programs being implemented, and I think, as Inspector Shannon said on other issues, I think we're coming to a point now where enforcement is going to be the issue. We have been giving people a lot of lead time and making requests. And now I think it's coming to the time where we do need to take further steps to enforce that. And now's the time. So council is meeting on Monday. And I imagine we'll be asking for follow-up if we've received any correspondence from the Premier in response to our letter of March 25. And if not, then I think we will look at taking further steps because this is something that's going to get increasing. I think it's going to be a bigger problem as the weather warms up and people become restless with the quarantine and isolation. And so I think we can see it coming, and we need to take steps now to prevent that.
Just to follow up with that, I don't know if this is for you, Inspector Shannon, or you, Mayor Saunderson. Is that something we're able to do locally here? Check people's driver's license and send them home if they don't have a local postal code, or does that have to come from the province?
Well, my understanding, Erica, is that it would come from the province because we don't have any local bylaws that would give us that authority, and I don't think the OPP independently have any authority. So I think there needs to be steps taken provincially to enable those types of road checks to be put in place. And with that said, I'll look to Mary to add to that.
Yeah, that is correct. Barring any local bylaw, we have no authority at this time to prohibit people from coming into the community.
Okay, I have another question. Mayor Saunderson, I saw on Twitter you toured the hospital on Good Friday, I think.
Yes, that's right.
How did it go? What's the mood like there?
Well, I was incredibly impressed. And with a family of 3 boys, an active family, I've been to the hospital many times, but not usually for a tour. So it was very interesting to have a tour. It was eerily quiet. The emergency departments at our hospital, and I understand this is happening in many hospitals, are quite quiet because people are avoiding the hospitals right now. For the first time, probably since I've lived in Collingwood, there is capacity. So they are doing everything they can to prepare. I know they have contingency plans in place if we do experience a surge. And we have been working, CAO Min has been working very closely with Nora Holder, CEO at the hospital, to make sure that we're ready for that. And this coming Monday, we'll be looking at a resolution to put some infrastructure in place for the contingency plan at its location. And so it was wonderful to see the hospital is so well organized, and we're blessed in this community with an incredible workforce of healthcare professionals, from the doctors right down to kitchen staff and cleaners, custodians. And while I was there was some construction going on, so they have great in-house maintenance and work people. But the move was very positive. I think we're all waiting for the surge to happen. We don't want it to happen, but we have to be prepared for it. And so the mood at the hospital, I thought, was very upbeat, and there certainly are a lot of committed and hardworking staff over there.
Sorry, does that mean there's going to be some building happening, a tent or whatever for a contingency site this week?
No, there's a physical location. And so the resolution that's coming up on Monday's agenda is to cost share with the hospital the costs of putting in some infrastructure to make sure that they have a generator in place and have the backup systems, so that they can make sure that if there is a power failure, there's a redundancy system to make sure that the contingency location, the offsite location, my understanding is that if the surge comes, what they will do is move other patients out of the hospital to this location to make room for the COVID patients. And so this is putting infrastructure in place to make sure that the contingency location is got all the fail safes and redundancy systems in place to make sure that the patients that are moved out of the hospital are put into a secure, safe environment.
And that funding, Brian, will be coming from the 2.5, is that right?
I would imagine that's where we'll pull it from at first. We are keeping track of all our costs for discussion with the province and the feds after the COVID crisis is over to see what kind of recovery can be put in place. But in the short term, I imagine that's where it will come from. Yes.
Do we have any sense yet what this is costing us? I don't know whether, I think there's going to be a financial update on Monday, correct?
Yes, you're right. And I think we do have a sense. I know we've been keeping very as detailed records as we can. So on the update on Monday, we'll get a sense of what our weekly or monthly burn rate is. And I know at the county they're doing the same. And so all levels of government are tracking these costs as best we can to see at the end of the day if we can recover those costs or at least have an idea of what those totals are. And they fall into many different pots, Ian. You know, there's lost costs for service fees for our rec facilities. There's costs for maintaining the facilities and then costs that we're actually incurring to combat or put measures in place to assist our residents during this time.
Mayor Saunderson, just going back to the hospital tour, you know, for a number of weeks, your messaging has been to stay home. But I know you did go in person to the hospital. I just wondered how you and the hospital sort of weighed the risks and ended up with coming to the decision that you'd be going in person.
Well, I was invited by the CEO, Nora Holder. She invited all three local mayors, myself, Mayor Bifolchi from Wasaga Beach, and Mayor Measures from Clearview Township. And in discussion with her, she felt it was important for us as municipal leaders to see what's going on at the hospital. And it was important for us to be there to thank the staff for the incredible work that they're doing. And so when I went through the door, I was gowned or I sort of masked and went through the sanitization process. And I can tell you, going through the hospital, I must have put on hand sanitizer more than 20 times every time you left one wing or pushed a door. So we went through practicing the safety protocols that they have in place at the hospital. And I think it was well worth it for the hospital to see the municipal leaders there, to thank them personally for what they're doing. And it was, I think, important for me to be there to see how prepared they are, because we work arm in arm with the hospital. And so I felt that the risks were minimal, and it was not a busy time. And we didn't go into any areas where patients were. With the exception, I think, of the dialysis ward. So in my opinion and Nora's opinion, it was not an undue risk, and that there was an importance and significance to the visit.
Okay, one last question for Chief Parr. I know that you've been working on an emergency management for the plan for years, and you oversee it. So I just wondered what you thought sort of overall of the response so far, and how the plan has been put in place, and how you've been preparing for it.
Hi, Erica. Yeah, we've taken the plan and used part of the plan over this time since the 1st of March, basically, or just after. The plan's there for it's a doctrine that you can use just as guidance notes. Right now, we haven't declared, nor do we feel we have to declare at this time. Now, we talk constantly with the CAO, the group. It's not just myself. It's the town department heads and leaders, and converse with the mayor, making sure everybody's up to date, and we really evaluate what's going on in the community. So the plan's a great a doctrine for us to look at stuff. If as the mayor mentioned earlier, if there's an opportunity that maybe a bylaw has to be passed that we normally wouldn't do, or if staffing levels might become lessened, that we would have to enact the plan. But we're doing really well. I think the senior management of the town is running better than we could at this time with the group we have. So it's really refreshing. Every morning we have meetings at 8:30, teleconference meetings, and every issue comes up, we seem to have a plan. We're working forward. Part of the plan is contingency, business contingency plans and recovery plans. That's being worked on. So we're not just ignoring the plan. We're using portions of the plan move forward. And I was so grateful that we actually finalized the plan and all the updates early this year, that we can actually use, and it's really working well. I had mentioned to my deputy chief that when you can go to the plan and you know exactly where to reference something instead of the old plan that was a document that was created after 9/11, it's really refreshing to us, and it's helped a lot. But saying that, it's the management team and the leaders of the town that we're driving forward and having a lot of success.
Yeah, I don't have any further questions. So.
Okay, thanks, Ian. Are there any other questions, Erica?
No, thank you.
Okay. Well, if that's it then, thank you very much, everyone. Have a safe weekend, and we'll be chatting next week.
Yeah.
Take care.
You.
Thank you.